Hello, everyone. This is today is Wednesday, February 5th. This is the SIG cluster lifecycle, the cluster API of our meetings, and we have an agenda doc. Please feel free to add your topic in the agenda, or discussion topic in the agenda, and your name in the attending list. As every week, we start this meeting by welcoming new attendees. So if it is the first time or one of the first time that you are joining this meeting and you would like to introduce yourself, please use the raise hand feature and speak up. Okay, I don't see new folks willing to introduce themselves, so we can move to open proposal readout. So we have in place update proposal. Is there someone that want to give an update? I don't see Guillermo. Alex, please.
Yeah, we met with some KP maintainers. Was it last week? I think it was last week. To discuss some changes on how we can get this moving forward, and we're currently working on updating the proposal so it reflects what we discussed. But shortly speaking, we decided to maintain the state in the KP API and try to avoid changes so we don't change machine deployments, etc. We will hide the feature behind FeatureGate as for anything else, and we will register in place updaters through extension config CRD, which will also allow us to select clusters on which we want to apply this type of updates. And I think that's all. We also decided to keep the process synchronous, calling updaters. And yeah, we will provide more updates in the next couple of weeks. You're muted.
Sorry. So thank you very much for the update. I took some note in the open proposal section. Please feel free to update them if they are not exactly correct. And okie dokie. So next there is the CAPD development proposal. We set for this proposal, we set a lazy consensus end of this week. There are a couple of LGTM +1, so it seems that it's moving quickly. And thank you everyone for the feedback. So I just add a note. Cap dev lazy consensus end of week. Okay, so we can probably quickly move to discussion topic. Mike?
Yeah, I guess as I was looking at the doc today, I was like, I realized we're starting our second, or more agenda entry in the 2025 year. And I thought we had, explicitly at the top, it says that's the 2024 agenda. I didn't know if we had a new doc set up yet. And also I saw that comment from Tilo and I was, if it's set to private, that's also another issue too. So I see Tilo has his hand up as well.
I'm just putting my hand up for the proposal readouts. So someone at the a maintainer at the node provisioning PR proposal said we should go with lazy consensus as well and just merge the PR within 1 or 2 weeks if no one speaks against that. And they recommended I bring it up in the meeting.
Okay, so I would like first to close the topic about Mike. So I will reach out to Vince. He offered to create a new agenda doc. I don't know if he already did something or not. I will reach out to Vince. Tilo, with regards to, I think that you are speaking about the working group for the Bootstrap working group.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so just a note, I didn't bring this up in other proposal because we have a session for feature group updates at the end of other agenda, but I take your point. I kindly ask you to add a line there, basically reminding folks that the charter of the working group, the PR for the charter of a working group is basically finalized. We are looking for a couple of LGTM, possibly from maintainers that did not have added to the proposal. And yeah, thank you for bringing this up. Next time, just, yeah, our agenda has a proposal at the top, a working group at the end. Not a big issue. We can manage.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it moved. I used to be in the open proposal section. That was my confusion. Yeah, absolutely. I'll wait. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Thank you for bringing this up. Okay, I will only ask a question about the current agenda doc is set to private. Is this correct? So
if you open a browser in private mode, you will not be able to access the document at all. Like, you're not seeing it, and people that haven't joined the Google group don't have access either. So for some reason it changed. It used to be different when I looked at the agenda doc sometime last year, and I didn't notice because I had joined the working group, obviously. The Google group, obviously. But I heard very recently, like a few weeks ago, that someone had this issue, and I was able to reproduce it in a private browser. And so apparently someone changed the access. I'm not sure.
okay, maybe I will reach out to you to understand better the problem, because I'm not aware that we changed the permission recently. Maybe what happened is that country bags changed permission, and because this document is hosted under country bags, and we inherit permission from the top folder. But yeah, nice to, I would like to figure it out.
Most confusingly, I just tried and it now works again. So I'm now officially confused.
I just changed
Yesterday
it back.
it didn't.
Apparently anyone that's a member of the Kubernetes mailing list can just change permissions, and I was just able to change it back to anyone with the link can open or can view. So maybe someone by accident changed that, because it doesn't seem to be restricted. If you click on share, Fabrizio, you can see.
Yeah.
But on general access, you can just change it to whatever you want.
Oh my gosh.
Like this general access, anyone with the link was previously set to restricted, and now it's anyone with the link again. That should probably be what we want if anyone is supposed to be able to see it.
Okay, I kindly ask you both to open a thread in C cluster Lifecycle, so I could loop in Vince that set up those folder in the past and try to get this fixed. Pavel?
I think there was some kind of reorganization lately regarding the schedule of the meetings and SIGs. So like you have to have an access to even do it and update your calendars. There was whole Google group discussions, and I think it was led by Ivanov from CubeADM, to which I also attended back in the past. So whatever it was, I think it's worth backtracking to that reorganization of the schedules. And yeah, and I got my invitations again updated in place, just maybe with one or two extra, and I can't even access every single one because then I'm asked for corporate or enterprise or whatever different email domain. So I guess we are there with some meetings and are not with some others, right?
If possible. So
That's
first
the
of all,
typical thing, yeah.
First of all, thank you for the info. I think that so meeting agenda is a mess. It's really complex how it works, and I don't think that is related to document permission. In case, please comment on the thread that Jakob and Thilo are starting in the chat. Chime in there. Eventually, we'll ask Lubomir to comment.
Sounds good.
If that's okay, we can move to the next topic. And Andrea.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
So this is about the Azure provider, and there is a little bit of logic currently to watch kubeadm configs, and then later on an argument was added to be able to watch a different kind of configs. And this PR is trying to make the entire thing abstract so that the user does not have to enter anything and give permissions to watch resources. And well, the solution is to watch Bootstrap secrets. I don't think it is great, but it does hold on per the Bootstrap contract, where some rules are specified. And it also works currently for kubeadm because the kubeadm Bootstrap provider does update the Bootstrap secret whenever the kubeadm config is updated, if it is referenced by a machine pool. I don't really know by heart if this is also part of the contract or just a best practice, but as of today, this seems to be holding. So my question is, if you have any opinion on this, I mean, for this solution, because there is also a similar discussion with the GCP provider, where the author of the PR was also trying to find an abstract way of doing this. And maybe, I don't know, a topic for the future is to have a Bootstrap, a generic Bootstrap config resource. But yeah, I think that's a lot of discussion.
Pavel?
Isn't it quite generic as it is right now? I mean, you have to have your kubeadm provisioning YAML. Of course, you have to have kubelet and containerd, which is required. I mean, that layer is required first, and you have kubelet, and you have this provisioning and joining YAMLs, right, for kubeadm, and they look quite generic already. So I would say that it's just a matter of proper annotations. I honestly was not. I was a little bit revoking certs or maybe recreating them, and it kind of worked. But the whole kubelet with, I don't know, with integration to other parts is generic. So I would say that this is something that could kubeadm config, that's the name of that YAML kind. So I think it is generic, but it depends what kind of system it works and before, like, what is the platform and it runs on. If the platform is generic enough, then it's not kubeadm problem then, because it's gonna work the same. But we could think, I think it was mentioned there in this pull request, that there could be like a label or annotation, right?
So then if that holds true, then I would expect kubeadm to be part of copy.
I see. I mean, I mean, it's a separate tool. I mean, you can spin your cluster with something else, but kubeadm is like at the core of Kubernetes, so you have it whether you want it or not in Kubernetes and separately, right? So it is spinner, but it's also there.
Yeah, sorry, I don't agree. I think it is just another Bootstrap provider, right? So
okay, I mean, yes, you're like joining and creating nodes with it, but the kubeadm logic is still embedded in Kubernetes core monolith. What used to be a monolith repo, right? Monolithic repo. So I don't think it can be skipped that easy, and I actually see a potential here. We will just need to and if the thinking was towards cloud native platform like thinking, then anything that can be, I don't know, snapshotter and whatever for content runtime interface could be adjusted, and kubelet will be generated based on that kubeadm config with integration to this. I mean, I've verified many ways and many different options. I mean, maybe not enough, but it shows me that, hey, I mean, okay, so if I have a properly kind of generic with something like QEMU2 maybe, so it will be runnable everywhere, then I could have a local spinner a little bit, yes, but you also have that kubeadm logic embedded also in Kubernetes project, of which you can't just drop it. We would have to rewrite the portion of the main Kubernetes repo, right? There is kubeadm there as well.
Christian?
I'd like to have a different angle of view. What I wanted to ask is, do we have a gap in capd's Docker machine pool implementation, or how does capd's Docker machine pool implementation handle this? Or does it not handle this? Or because as far as I know, capd's machine pool controller does not watch secrets and also does not watch kubeadm configs. So how does it work there?
that's a good question, and I didn't check. Sorry for that. I can have a
No
look.
worries, no worries. I'm just have been curious. So maybe there's a gap there, but maybe there's the solution already implemented there.
Thank you.
I would
Christian.
assume that it is not watching it, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be doing that.
Sorry, I don't have a raise hand. I just want to add something. So if I got it right, Andrea, your problem is that you are looking to ways to watch, to create a watch for a CRD and for a kind, for a group version kind that you don't know in advance. You want your code to, if you are using kubeadmin config, you want to watch kubeadmin config. If you are using Talos config, you want to look for Talos config. Okay, if that's your request or need, we have example in cluster API for creating watching on the flight for a unknown kind. I make an example when the machine controller, when reconciling a machine, it basically create a watch, dynamically create a watch for the infra provider. And it's not required to know it in advance. If someone can link an example of this code, this will be great. so we give some pointer to Andrea. Otherwise, I will follow up after the meeting.
That would be great. And do you also know by heart if that also solves the permission problem? Or does the user need to set up that?
Yeah, that's a good one. So what we have in the cluster API contract and in our provider is basically some rule, and I'm looking for the contract. Give me a second. So machine, not the right one. Provider contract infra machine. So I'm going by memory. So basically, what we expect is, for instance, let's look at for API resources. We expect that you're talking about Bootstrap config, so maybe this is what you're looking for. So we expect that all the Bootstrap config are in this group, and this is what we are giving. What we are giving Airbox access by default, but there is an aggregation. We use aggregation label for folks that want to use Bootstrap provider that are in a different group. So basically, we give by default airbag for the most common case, and we give an extension point for the exception case. Does this make sense?
Yes, a lot. Thank you.
Okay, great. I see that someone already added some example for what we are discussing, and I thank you. I don't know who did this, but thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I linked the right ones, and for the permissions part, that's actually the upstream documentation to it, how that aggregation stuff works.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christian. If you have questions, Andrea, feel free to reach out in Slack.
That was great. Thank you, everyone.
Okie dokie, let's keep moving. There is a point next about Docker BuildX, but I don't know who wrote this down.
So that's me, Paweł. Okay, so I'm thinking. Okay, so you have the Kubernetes with proper shim, and of course people use Docker as client quite often. And there is this thingy where you might be in a situation that you need to have your image being built for various architectures, let's say ARM, x86, and many others. So I just wonder if let's say I have this node created with Docker build kit and like from client end, and I have this integrated through pointing it to kubeadm or sorry, kubeconfig and stuff that was done and integrates, and I have that extra pod there running in the cluster, and I know that okay, this specific architecture image goes to that node, and I wonder if we had like how does it refer to cluster API layer? Because from kubectl point of view, I'm gonna just check my nodes. One node is like, I don't know, releaser or worker, wherever deployer node for that and that arch, right? Because I of course use BuildX custom, not the one that's like not that open source, I guess, even on the client end. And let's say I want to have another node which is for deployments of things that run on different architecture, and that thing can be in different cloud. I mean, can be in different place, can be bare metal, right? So we have situation when yes, we create those BuildX nodes. You point then the Docker server. There's no Docker server needed. I mean, engine containerd or even something simpler to have this to have this kind of integration. It works nicely. I mean, you can have multiple images built even with one Docker command from client end, right? But you have it among nodes. And let's say that one node is actually part of machine that's in the cloud, and the other node maybe runs somewhere locally or like semi-weirdly locally. I mean, or bare metal even on something like Raspberry Pi maybe. So how does it refer to cluster API sets? I mean, machine sets. Does it even integrate? Are we interested in that kind of a CD integration from that end, taking Docker OSS, so Mabi, I guess. I mean, not, I'm sorry, Mabi's engine. So not using the Docker engine, of course, which would be enterprise, right? I'm hoping that I formulate that question properly, because from Kubernetes, show me the nodes, I can have everything in one place. But let's say I install that cluster cattle, and one node is quoted, and it's part of a, I don't know, AKS, and the other node is maybe something else. So would that even work? I mean, did we even start thinking about those kind of things, or is it too early for now? I mean, as of now.
Is there someone that want to answer, Pavel?
I'm still trying to understand this, but I do have a question. Is this, Pavel, is this like just Docker specific, or does this also extend to other,
No,
as you said, same thing? Okay.
Could
you maybe explain it a little more? Because I'm having trouble like understanding the context here. Like, what's the,
right.
when you break it down to a user story, like as a user,
Yep.
tell me that way, I guess.
So as a user, I need to build images. I need to have some maybe tar.gzs and that encapsulate logic that's almost a VM when you unpack it and make it runnable, but isn't really. And they reuse, for example, runC under the hood. So question is, would that be how would that work with cluster API machine set? Because I can have a node with Kubernetes where this one node is bare metal and the other node is in the cloud. So then this one node handles x86 underscore 64 and the other node ARM 64. If I had this machine set, would there be any kind of a clash or something that would potentially not work regarding deployments to those nodes, or cluster API would just transparently pass through any kind of deployments like this?
Yeah, got it. I think I understand what you're getting at now. I mean, I would expect you to have two different machine sets, right? One machine set, to represent each of the different architectural styles, right? Like
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I'm like, are we limiting ourselves to this kind of thing, or are we planning the granularity, which will be
we have had some discussions about the possibility of what are called heterogeneous scalable types, right? So like what if on a machine deployment you could have some sort of field that would allow for there to be heterogeneous machine, templates within there. I don't think we've ever gone forward on that notion though. So like you're definitely in experimental territory here, Pablo. Like machine pool is the closest we've gotten to that. And even machine pool is considered to be homogeneous. It's not considered to be heterogeneous. So I think we still have work to do in terms of, how we would express a heterogeneous, scalable collection of machines. So I think like if you have thoughts about that, I would say like maybe put together your thoughts into like an enhancement idea or how you think it might work, or maybe just questions you have and come back and see if we could push it forward. So far, the only uses I think we've come up with for heterogeneous scalable, collections is when we talked about kind of like auto scaling. We talked about that a lot, especially with respect to Carpenter, because Carpenter likes to make all sorts of different instance types. But I don't think we've had a use case outside of that for users wanting to have heterogeneous scalable collections. So I think the first work is to say, okay, is this a feature that would actually be useful to cluster API? And is it something that the users are looking for? I mean, you've expressed a use case, but I think we need to figure out more use cases to understand how to make this better. And really, like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't just multiple machine sets work for you? That's the pushback, right?
yeah, taking that exactly CA, Carpenter, and so on, integration, and even the upper Carpenter apply. Yes, yeah. Yeah. That okay. I will be experimenting, and when I go with more detailed flow with examples, I think I'm gonna craft something like this because it's quite interesting from the point of view of distributed augmented systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Come give us a demo. Show us what you're thinking about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no comments, we can move to the next topic. It doesn't have an owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's mine also. I'm thinking like about file systems. I mean, contain CSI should be, it shouldn't matter, right? I mean, but then you can have Azure, you can have GCP, you can have AWS, you can have many other clouds, even very small providers out there. I mean, small. Okay, that's the wrong terminology. Just not as huge. Although certainly you would probably go with something like AKS and work with Carpenter and so on, and then check other clouds. So having that in mind, I wonder if CSI is mature enough to work with all kinds of file systems, or is there like specific standardization? Because it also takes a platform, right? I mean, you can have taking that, for example, BTRFS was deprecated in Red Hat, I think with 7, taking that you can work with something GlassRFS even, which is another abstraction, I guess. So sorry for mixing things up. Then I wonder if there is specific. Okay, I don't have enough knowledge about CSI, and I just wonder if it's abstract enough, taking virtualization in mind. Maybe that will be more clear. Yeah, like for example, you can have system that's based on FUZ, right? Like reverse SSH, VirtuFS, or wherever. I think the first one is based on, yeah. So I just wonder, is that kind of abstraction enough also for virtualization, or do we have some boundaries defined there? Like I mean,
Honestly, for this one, I think that you have to go engage with SIG storage.
yeah, there's separate SIG, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the layer we consume these things at, like with a PVC or something, like once you have a workload that's asking for like a persistent volume claim or something, the questions of what, format the underlying storage is, like those are so far, kind of removed at that point because it's assumed the operating system is attaching it somehow, right? So I agree with Fabrizio. This is kind of a SIG storage question if you're curious about some of the interactions with the formatting of the disk types and whatnot, or the partitions that are being attached.
Although thinking about core things, I think there might be something that integrates with everything without too much of a problem. I'm just trying to maybe jump to weird conclusion too quickly, taking open source in general, but and I'm not sure what SIG storage is working on like specifically right now. But there is kind of OS that I think would handle those things. And again, cluster auto scaling, which we need to backtrack to. For example, in Carpenter, you can also auto scale based on the storage, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like limits, I don't know, CPU or memory resources stuff. It can be storage as well. So I just wonder
cluster
if
autoscaler is similar. If you have
yeah,
workloads that require ephemeral storage or certain
yeah.
PVCs, cluster autoscaler works the same way. It's using the same scheduling, logic to do that kind of stuff.
Okay, I see. Okay, I think it's cool for now. Thank you.
Next one, again, Powell.
Oh, well, that was like standardization. So I was thinking that like cluster API, right? There is this quick start. So maybe this this bullet point that I placed, I will also talk about the bullet point that's below. There's like a quick start guide, right? And it says, I don't know, use kind or kinder. I never know which one is for what. One bootstraps, right? I mean, but is it like a specific to CI/CD flows that we have to do it this way, or can I just create my VMs, not VMs, and I mean I don't have hardware that would allow for necessary virtualization, but I can do cool stuff with it anyway, I guess. And I would be like, hey, so if we took this thingy with this thingy and did like this, then we would have like a perfect testing or slash development station, regardless of whether that will be like virtualization work or CI/CD and other things like run locally. So when I look at the quick start, and there's like, because I'm just before installing cluster couple to have that layer upper, but I would need to create like quote out the current cluster and create another cluster. And I would have to, I would want to use the copy then. So I just wonder because it's Whipple locally, and I know how. So I think so. I just wonder if I mean, is it like definite what's there? I mean, is there like a specific thinking? I mean, I know there is, but like I guess it's the simplest, right? I mean, I think I even found an example with kinder with or kind with kindnet, for lemma defined very specifically. But I was able to solve this thing on my own, and well, it kind of works with this user v2 instances can connect with each other approach, which that Lima VM provides. And taking that there's also IoT involved, and you have even Colima, which also uses Lima, that I'm like, hey, so there was like a platform, like one generic platform, then maybe we could standardize things in a specific way. That maybe if you want to create it, do it this way. I mean, use this driver. Maybe go with Qemu 2 because it will work on Windows, it will work on Linux. Although yeah, I mean, would work, of course, on OS X too. And as opposed to, for example, Apple virtualization framework, which I've been working with as well, which is lacking in implementation for Lima VMs, like snapshotting and stuff. So I wonder, like, should we like have those guidelines defined? I mean, they're there, right? And I'm thinking for a reason. What if I had this kind of a platform that would be proven to be generic enough? Yeah, then would it differ much from what Cappy mentions that go with kind, do this, do that, and so on? You get my point, because with this you get perfect CI/CD sandbox, and you don't have to use cloud resources. You don't have to pay for cloud resources.
I think you might want to look at, have you looked at like the testing providers that we have, like the in-memory provider and the kubemark provider and like the Docker provider? Because I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Like these are kind of virtualized testing infrastructures that don't require us to use necessarily any specific cloud resources, but they can be tested all like kind of like on a single instance using just the memory and whatnot on that instance. Yeah, just need Docker, right? But I mean, like the kubemark
Yeah, I
provider.
mean, yeah, Docker Compose is the simplest, but you wanna go Kubernetes, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna create that cluster based, with some not based instances.
Right, but maybe I'm misunderstanding your question here because like cluster API is the standard, right? The API objects we've defined are the standard. And then the point is to implement it different, you implement the actual machine actuators differently on every platform because those are a little different on every platform, right? So those all need to be tested specifically on each platform, right? But
Yeah,
the generic mechanisms of cluster API can be tested in isolation, using things like the in-memory provider, the Docker provider, and the kubemark provider. So for testing those interactions, we do have some testing providers that don't require full deployments. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were getting at. I saw Chris wanted to.
No. I mean, it's not really something that I was getting to. I mean, I was more like wondering whether a quick start for copy, where there's like try it yourself, is definite and final. Because having ability to create local development where you do not have to use cloud providers that much, but you will still be able to like emulate them. Like look, for this thing, local stack, for example, from you can like emulate even AWS resources, and that also can integrate. But you need a platform, and that platform can be created with something. I mean, it has to run on some nodes, and to have that network locally, you need some NAT-based VMs. And those VMs, I mean, the times of the guy who's in charge of Minikube when we talked. He said that VirtualBox times, good times are over. And we had this QEMU2 discussion then. And it actually motivated me to create my own cluster. And with, well, of course, Postman works and even creates that VM and everything. But it should be more, vanilla, And I just wondering if that would be too much to define that kind of a thing, or going with as simple as possible. I have those VMs that I know will work, whether it's IoT, whether it's DataOS or the other OS, and I have a proper container runtime, even file system there that works nicely and mounts. Even being similar to something like eventually flat, right? OS. So I wonder if there is something specific that we could deploy locally, which would integrate with those testing frameworks for starters, because you know that it is good abstraction or it is well defined if you can create those sandboxes. And instead of maybe using GitHub Actions or too much and cloud resources like actual instances, we could virtualize them locally, right? But for this kind of approach, we would need standardization. And I've been thinking and working through this for a long time now, and I have come up to certain conclusions. Just wonder if that would be like maybe overkill for now. I still don't have that copy, layer. So maybe that's a difficulty here. Maybe that's what I'm not seeing. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing this yet.
Just a quick note. We are already running entirely our CI on a single machine, so it is already there.
Right. So end-to-end tests
sorry,
and things like this.
Sorry, let me
Oh,
finish.
yeah, of course.
So it is already there. I just add, I don't think there is standardization when it comes to developer environment. Everyone will do things in a slightly different way. We propose what works for the most so far, but open to discussion. If you have idea, feel free to open issues. I let Chris to speak up, and then I have to table this discussion because we have still time is running and we have other points in agenda.
Yeah, real quickly, Pavel, did you get Kind and Tilt up and running on your local machine?
No, I have never.
Okay. So I think
used Kind.
you need to reach out in the channel and we can have a thread on it and get you up and running with that. Because I think you will find once you have those two things going, everything you asked for, you have. You will
Right,
have
but
everything running on a local machine
but I
as a
also have
perfect development environment.
Yeah, but I also have my environment, and it would be
Yeah, but
awesome if then we could test Cluster API, I guess.
so yeah. I know you have your
Yeah.
environment, you want to use that, but the guide is there to help get people up and running with a generic environment that works everywhere, which is what you actually described wanting. And I think we already have it. So we could talk later, but
Yeah,
yeah,
let's keep in sync, because if I could integrate this with the other one, then copy would be like, so yeah, let's have a discussion. Sorry for taking too much time.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you, Pavel, for bringing up those discussion. Sorry, thank you, Chris, for volunteering to help. And next point is on Jacob.
Right. Yes, that was a spontaneous idea today. So the question, or it was just wanted to bring it up before opening an issue or writing a proposal. So we have the problem that we're running a cluster API in or not really, but almost air-gapped environment. And for cluster cuttle init to work to install providers, it needs to be able to retrieve the components YAMLs from usually GitHub releases. We're now using it also with GitLab, and I think Max has opened a merge request for authentication with GitLab because that's for some reason missing. But then we thought about running cluster cuttle, or also, well, with cluster cuttle it works because you can run it from somewhere where you have internet, but with the cluster API operator, that wouldn't work anymore, at least in our case. So the idea was, or the quick idea that we had was, why are we even storing these YAMLs or these component YAML files in releases for different platforms, which makes it a little bit like hard to use in some cases. How about storing those in OCI or as OCI artifacts, since that's now a thing for basically everything, including, for example, Helm charts? Because that would allow us to just mirror those OCI artifacts in our local environment, and it doesn't really matter whether the provider is hosted on GitHub or on GitLab or on anything else.
Danny?
Have we actually missed that?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we have this sort of feature implemented in the latest release of copy operator, which allows you to specify OCI artifact source to pull from some registry. And it can also combine what you are asking for as a user story, multiple pointers being published in this artifact, but it has to follow specific, I would say, structure. And the way how we implement this is basically by wrapping the ORAS CLI commands to publish those artifacts if you want to as a publish subcommand, and preload, which creates config maps. You don't need to do so if you have access to OCI registry. You can just specify this, but the files needs to be just plain text, no directories stored in this artifact in the specific structure. I think I posted the link. The one has some details on how it looks like. If you wish to try it out, it's not cluster STL, it's copy operator, but maybe an alternative.
That's very interesting.
Thank you, Alex, for bringing this up. Jacob, is that okay? I keep going because we still have a few points.
Go ahead.
But,
we look at that and then come back if we still.
Thank you very much. Tilo?
Super quick one. I'll keep it under a minute. After my talk first, someone approached me and told me about the in-place updates proposal and regular meetings or even just meetings. And it's because I demonstrated live updates in my talk of cluster API cluster, and just wanted to make sure, are you folks, is anyone here from that from that proposal. How can I touch base with any of you folks? Because I think we should talk.
Alex, you have to reach out to Alex or Guglielmo.
There's at least one Alex at the call. Is it that Alex?
Yes, that's
Okay.
me.
Okay. I know the pull request. They spoke up on that, but I'll take note of the name Alex, and I know who to ping. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, feel free to ask. Actually, remembering your question, we have some group discussions with Guillermo. Ask him as well, and also if you have examples for in-place upgrades, I saw you showed the demo on FOSDEM. Please feel free to also share it with folks. I believe we already started on some work in that area, and it would be nice to have additional input and adapt this to what you're discussing. I think we
Absolutely,
are. Yeah.
So yeah, if you folks have, I don't know, a meeting series once a month, I think it's worth just discussing, spending some FaceTime. I think there's a lot of like back and forth where we can align. Just saying, but I'll put this to the Slack.
Yeah, just this working group had regular meetings back in the past. Now they are consolidating the proposal. So I think that they only have on-demand meetings. But I think if you are interested, there is something to discuss. They will arrange a meeting. Thank you, Tilo. Let's move to provider updates. Jonathan.
Hi, yeah. I just wanted to share that we have a new release of CapH. The main thing is we added a new reconcile strategy field to support continuously reconciling the Helm chart or just installing it once. It's similar to the apply once feature on cluster resource set, and there's some users asking for it. So if you're one of them, here it is.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I follow the discussion on this long-awaited feature. Thank you for implementing this. Next one is also on you.
Yeah, so actually thought I already shared this a while back, but it seems like I must have forgotten. So I cut a new release of the CAPI visualizer and included a demo video in the release notes.
Thank you very much. Daniel?
Hey, yeah, so from my side as well, there is an update on non-partial fleet release 051. This one bumps CAPI support to 194, 132 Kubernetes, and also a long-awaited feature. I believe it was asked when we presented the demo originally for this provider to support templating functionality. And this is upcoming, I would say, still experimental feature in the fleet, but I showed the demo how it works with integration with add-on, basically allowing you to do something similar what add-on provider Helm allows you to do. With the sole difference is that fleet has to be in the management cluster, and the cluster has to be accessible from the child cluster. So consider this if you want that support alternative. It also allows you to deploy CNI, for example, like Calico, in isolated environments where you only have access to this management cluster endpoint. And that's probably may address some use cases if you have those. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Happy to see so much release in the ecosystem. Next up, feature working group. Mike, I reminded you, I replaced you. There is a meeting right after this meeting for the Carpenter working group. Tilo, we already talked about this. For the booster working group, there is a meeting tomorrow, and there is a PR that now has a lazy consensus, February 19. And Dane, the very last point in agenda. Sorry for getting here so late.
Yeah, no problem at all. Fabrizio, you and I spoke a little bit in Slack about this one, but just kind of wanted to pose. Hopefully, this will be a quick one. There's a field on machine deployments. I should have put that in the note. Called rollout after. As far as I can tell, it seems to be intended to behave as sort of an imperative one time. I need to replace all these machines right now, even if I haven't changed their configuration. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But what I noticed was that it doesn't function as expected, or at least as I expected, when the update strategy is on delete. That's probably not too surprising. It may have just simply fallen through the cracks since rollout after effectively creates a new machine set, and it's not going to roll to the new machine set. But I was wondering if it would make sense for us to implement this as a supported feature within the on delete strategy.
Does someone has opinions? So I already shared my comment on the thread. I think that what the right next step here is to open an issue so we can gather some other opinions and figure it out if there is critical mass to move on.
That sounds great to me. Yeah, I wanted to get some kind of idea before I opened the issue, but yeah, that sounds great to me.
Yeah, but just FOI, quick summary of the thread. So there was a little bit of confusion about rollout after. So rollout after it doesn't keep on holding other rollouts. It is just an additional reason to roll out. My major concern here is that with on delete, even if I set a rollout after, nothing will happen because at the end, it is the user that has to delete machine. So if the user want to delete, so I struggle a little bit to see use case, but let's discuss on the issue.
Sure. Yeah. And
I just summarized the thread. So thank you everyone. Today was a really packed and lively discussion. This is really nice. See you next week. Bye bye.
Thanks, Fabrizio.